in students. I think at a more fundamental level, the differences in achievement are related more to how we work with students differently.
I think that's why it's so important to shift that paradigm, to start questioning, okay, what am I expected? What did I learn I had to do as a teacher? And push that and say, well, from all of those things that I learned, what may be not useful anymore? Because we are in a constant flow of change. And that is part of the challenge of having the diverse, extremely diverse population that we have at JCPS today.
You may have students, for example, an African American student, you give that student praise and he or she glows just like a little lightning bug. A student from an Asian culture, you give them praise, they're embarrassed. Now your heart may be in the right place. You may be doing the same thing for one student as you are for the other student, but the effect is going to be very, very different. I mean, you need to know what you're doing to work with students effectively.
And so for teachers, we call this pedagogy. We call it their ability to be able to instruct in a way in which students are able to receive. And in order for the playing field to be level, we must refer to it and begin to understand equity pedagogy. That is teaching methods that give every student an equal opportunity to be able to access and understand this information, and for equality in terms of the outcomes and the outputs as a result of that information.
So there has always been diversity in our classrooms. We just didn't notice it. And now that the spotlight is on it, we say, oh, okay, we have this diverse population that we have to teach. How do we do this? There was always diversity, ethnic diversity. Sometimes it was invisible. There was always race diversity. There were always students that had different abilities. There has always been, of course, age, but learning styles, we have put more of the spotlight on that. Religious diversity, socioeconomic diversity, very important.
There's several other dimensions of diversity that educators have to be prepared to deal with. Students who have disabilities form kind of a subgroup of their own. They experience life in our society often in ways that are very different. They've been victims of a variety of prejudices over the years. Teachers need to be sensitive to the fact that students who may be differently abled are still able, and how to provide the kind of support those students need.
One thing that I think that educators will begin to see as they truly understand using the differences in the classroom as an asset for students is that when you do a modification for a student who has, for example, a learning disability, one thing that you'll notice is that it provides many of those changes that you do in terms of modifying your instruction are providing a more structured environment for students in general. So those adaptations in terms of a teacher's approach to the classroom or adjusting anything for the school to make the school more inclusive are going to benefit all students, not just that one specific targeted group of students. So the things that these practices that teachers and educators begin to change in their schools and in the classrooms will benefit all students and really begin to make a change that all students can understand, can benefit from, and will enhance their learning outcomes.
You can learn about what makes your student comfortable or uncomfortable. What does your student like? What experiences have excited your student? What makes them get excited and passionate about what they're learning?
Well, in terms of a short-term fix, just to get teachers on the right path, to working more effectively with diverse student groups in their classroom, there are a couple of things they can do. One is they need to study. You could have children from who knows how many different racial groups, class positions in their classroom every day. So one thing you know right off the bat is that if you deal with them as if they're all the same, now, they can be equal in a fundamental sense, but if you deal with them as if they're all the same, some students are going to benefit, some students are not. So you need to learn more about the kind of students that you work with. Hopefully you got it when you were going through higher ed. Likelihood is you didn't. So their books, there's a fairly short list of really good introductory surveys that you can encourage people to read.
I think that there are really three things that immediately come to mind that I think teachers can and should do to address the diversity in their classroom and equal opportunity of outcomes for all students. Number one, teachers need to know their practice. They need to understand and have a real good knowledge of the content that they're teaching. They need to immerse themselves in it in such a way that they will be able to present that content in a variety of ways in multiple perspectives so that all students have an opportunity to have access to that content. Secondly, I would say that teachers need to build relationships with their students. Teachers need to focus on developing an understanding of and appreciation for the diversity that the students bring to the classroom. They can do this by forming and enhancing the relationships that they have at home with parents of the students that they have. They can do this by reading the history of students and getting to know and understand and appreciate that particular students and the gifts that they bring to the classroom, by incorporating things related to that student's culture into the classroom as being another really important piece of that. And then the most, I think, important thing for teachers to do is to have high expectations for all students in the classroom. To truly not just say that they believe all students can learn, but to demonstrate that through their daily actions and the daily activities and expectations that they have for students in their classroom.
We know that if teachers at a fundamental level, even though they've been told over and over again this is not true, but at a fundamental level, believe that some groups of children are capable of learning more than other groups of children just by virtue of their complexion or whatever cues you can pick up in terms of social class. I mean, you can usually tell gender, that's pretty obvious. But if you believe this, it's just like the research that looks at all other professionals. If a nurse believes that about some patients are worth more than others, a doctor believes that some patients are worth more than others, a lawyer believes some clients are worth more than others, a psychiatrist believes that some of his patients are worth more than others. It affects the way they serve these people. It's one of these dirty little secrets that people don't like to talk about a lot, but you see it in all the professions. Sigmund Freud talked about this stuff back in the 20s about which clients were deserving and which clients were not. And you give your all to the people who are deserving and the others you just try to make comfortable. But this is why these thought patterns are so deadly. And they're so easy to hide, quite frankly. You can always do the right dance, say the right thing. Once you get behind that classroom door, these are the kids you call on, these are the kids you work hard to serve, and these are the kids that kind of get what's left over. And all of us know that this goes on. If you ask teachers and nurses, social workers, doctors, all that, everybody knows it goes on. Nobody wants to talk about it that much or talk about what to do with it. But it starts with these ideas that run around in people's heads about difference. And difference can just mean difference. It doesn't mean a hierarchy or some kind of rank order of value. But when people think it does mean some sort of hierarchy or rank, it affects how they behave. And that affects the quality of education.
We really can't ignore the past because the past has brought us to where we are today, and it's critical to understanding our students today, and it's critical to understanding our school system and where we've gotten to be in our current education state. So as we go back and re-educate ourselves on the past, we use that then as a lens through which we see schools today, and then we use that in a way to approach doing some corrective action in terms of our approaches to instruction, our approaches to students, our approaches to curriculum, and then also really gives us a sense of wanting to correct some of the things that maybe should have happened when schools were integrated, some things that happened many years ago that have led us to where we are today. So educators, education leaders, and teachers in the classroom, and all those that work with students from the time they get on the bus until the time they leave school, we must begin to understand and appreciate and value the diversity and see that diversity as a real asset to what students are learning in the classroom.
What teachers know is very important to how they're going to behave. Most folks that go into teacher ed have only a passing acquaintance with content. Somehow the pedagogy drives out the content. So there are a lot of things in general, just in terms of the social sciences, the humanities, the history side, that these students are not as exposed to as students who go through other programs that we offer.
The optimum level of cultural competence is not only understanding, noticing differences, understanding them, utilizing them, but really integrating them so that we all benefit. I mean, I think, imagine the challenge, and this is a challenge of inclusion. Imagine the challenge. If you exclude a kid in your class because Jamie is too dirty, too always late, or acting up too crazy in class. And so you start excluding Jamie from artistic activities. You don't send Jamie to the science fair. Well, maybe that Jamie is that super smart brain that one day will discover the cure for cancer. Not only for people like Jamie and Jamie's family, but for my family and everybody else's. And I think that's one of the challenges that we have in front of us, but also one of the opportunities that we have for us. I mean, you know, it's been how many centuries since Native American philosophy and approach to life on Earth was shunned, and it was considered, you know, backwards and not interested in developing. Today we need an environmental movement to save this world. If we had listened to that perspective 500 years ago, we would be in a completely different place today. We will be valuing and using and interacting. It doesn't mean that we have to do away with everything that we have today. It means that it will be a much more balanced approach to life.